What if the most dangerous weapons of World War II weren't tanks, or bombs, or armies? What if they were lies? Not the lies told to the world, but the lies whispered into one man's ear, late at night, behind locked doors. Tonight, you're stepping inside the rooms where Adolf Hitler's reality was carefully rewritten by the very men who stood closest to him. This story reveals how Hitler's inner circle filtered, distorted, and manipulated information, shaping decisions that changed the course of the war. In Nazi Germany, power didn't always come from rank. It came from access. Who could stand closest to Hitler? Who could speak when others stayed silent? Who could frame reality before it reached his desk? Hitler trusted instinct more than paperwork, emotion more than data, and loyalty more than truth. This made his inner circle incredibly powerful. Men like Joseph Goebbels, master of propaganda; Hermann Göring, head of the Luftwaffe; Martin Bormann, the gatekeeper who controlled who even got to speak to Hitler; and generals who knew their careers and lives depended on telling him what he wanted to hear. The system rewarded agreement, not honesty. And slowly, the truth became dangerous. Most people know Goebbels, but few know Martin Bormann. He wasn't a great speaker. He wasn't a general. He rarely appeared in photographs. But he controlled Hitler's schedule, his paperwork, his meetings, his messages. If Bormann didn't like you, Hitler wouldn't see you. Reports passed through his hands before they reached the Führer. Bad news could be delayed, softened, or never delivered at all. Bormann didn't just manage access, he shaped reality. As the war expanded, Hitler demanded constant updates. How many tanks produced? How many planes flying? How many cities holding? But the numbers he received were often beautiful. Factories overstated output. Commanders inflated victories. Losses were minimized. Göring, desperate to protect his reputation, promised the Luftwaffe could defend Germany's skies. Goebbels reported unshakable morale in cities being reduced to ashes. No one wanted to be the man who walked into Hitler's office and said, "We are losing." So they didn't, and Hitler built his strategies on fantasy. Not all lies were selfish. Some were born from fear. Generals on the Eastern Front saw disaster coming. They knew supply lines were stretched. They knew the winter would destroy their armies. They knew reinforcements weren't enough. But when they reported the truth, they were blamed, transferred, ignored, humiliated. So many learned a new language. Instead of "we are surrounded," they said, "we are regrouping." Instead of "we are out of fuel," they said, "logistics are temporarily strained." Words became armor, and Hitler heard victory in every sentence. Nowhere were the lies more deadly than at Stalingrad. Hitler was told his army could be supplied by air. Göring promised it personally. But pilots knew the truth. They didn't have enough planes, enough fuel, enough airfields. The numbers reaching Hitler said, "Relief is coming." The reality on the ground was starvation. By the time the truth broke through the whispers, it was too late. An entire German army vanished into captivity and death. Goebbels didn't just lie to the public. He lied to Hitler. Newsreels showed cheering crowds. Newspapers reported heroic victories. But inside Germany, cities were burning. Factories were rubble. Families were burying children. Yet Goebbels told Hitler morale was stronger than ever. Why? Because Goebbels believed in the power of belief itself. If Hitler believed the nation was unbreakable, he would fight harder. But belief doesn't stop bombs. And slowly, the gap between what Hitler saw on film and what Germany lived through became impossible to hide. If you're fascinated by the hidden stories behind the biggest moments of World War II, make sure you're subscribed. This channel uncovers the history that happened behind closed doors. The circle turns inward, 2200 to 2500. As defeat loomed, the lies changed. They were no longer about victory. They were about survival. Himmler quietly explored negotiations with the Allies. Göring positioned himself as a possible successor. Bormann tightened his control, blocking messages, filtering reports, and isolating Hitler even further. Each man whispered a different version of the future. Each version put himself at the center. Hitler was no longer hearing one reality. He was hearing competing fantasies. In the final days, even the lies collapsed. Göring sent a message asking if he should take control of the Reich. Himmler attempted to surrender behind Hitler's back. Hitler called them traitors. The men who once whispered comfort now whispered escape, and the circle of lies finally shattered. April 1945. Hitler sat underground, surrounded by a handful of loyalists and shadows of former allies. There were no more grand reports, no more glowing statistics, just distant artillery and flickering lights. The whispers had stopped. Reality had forced its way into the room. Maps were still spread on tables, but the armies they represented no longer existed. The lies were over. History often remembers dictators as all-powerful, but power depends on information. And when information becomes a mirror instead of a window, even the most powerful man in the world becomes blind. The men who whispered lies to Hitler didn't just protect themselves. They helped shape a war built on fantasy, and paid for it with a nation's future.